If this story gave you chills or made your heart race, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, where in the world are you watching from right now? Whether it's a cozy room in Texas or a cafe in Tokyo, I love seeing how far these stories travel. And don't forget, tomorrow's story will take you even deeper into a mystery you won't believe. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you'll want to be here when the truth is revealed. Samantha. Lawson never thought a simple catering job would change her life forever. At 25, she had worked dozens of events, from rooftop weddings to political fundraisers. But the night she stepped into the Whitmore estate, perched just outside Nashville, something felt different. The mansion was enormous, almost intimidating, with towering white pillars, ivy-wrapped balconies, and a driveway so long it felt like a mile from the front gates to the marble steps. Sam tightened the black apron around her waist and took a deep breath. "Just another shift," she whispered, trying to quiet the strange unease building in her chest. She entered through the back entrance, as all staff did, and was greeted by the estate's head butler, Mr. Grant. He barely looked up from his clipboard. "No talking to guests, eyes down, stay in assigned areas. Do your job and you'll get paid," he said in a monotone voice. Sam nodded silently and picked up her silver tray of champagne flutes. The party had already begun. Inside the grand ballroom, chandeliers sparkled like frozen fireworks. Wealthy. Guests floated from conversation to conversation, dressed in gowns and tuxedos that probably cost more than her car. A string quartet played softly in the corner, adding to the air of effortless elegance. As she moved through the crowd, offering drinks, she tried to stay focused, but something kept tugging at her attention. The house was beautiful, yes, but it also felt heavy, like it was holding its breath, or hiding something. Then she saw it. A narrow hallway, dimly lit and tucked away behind a velvet curtain near the grand staircase. She wasn't supposed to go there. Staff were told to stick to service zones, but curiosity pulled at her like a string. Glancing over her shoulder, she stepped behind the curtain and into the corridor. The walls were lined with old portraits, men in suits, women in pearls, all staring out with cold painted eyes. But halfway down the hall she stopped. There in a simple black frame hung a photo that took her breath away. It was a black and white image of a little girl, no older than 6, with curly hair, round cheeks, and a tiny scar above her left eyebrow. Sam's hands began to shake. That little girl was her. She stepped closer, heart pounding. It wasn't just someone who looked like her. It was her. The dress, the smile, the scar, every detail matched the old childhood photo she kept hidden in her nightstand drawer at home. But how could it be here? She had never been in this mansion. She had no connection to the Whitmore family, or at least, she thought she didn't. The tray trembled in her hands. Her chest felt tight. 1,000 questions crashed through her mind, but one rose above the rest. Why was her photo in a billionaire's home? And suddenly, she knew. This night was about more than champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It was about the truth, and someone was hiding it. Samantha's hands were still trembling as she stepped back into the ballroom, but she forced herself to smile and keep moving. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the soft music, it all felt surreal now, as if she were walking through a dream or a lie. That photo haunted her. There was no mistaking it. It was her in that frame. But how did it end up in the Whitmore mansion, a place she had never been? At least not that she could remember. She needed answers. During a quiet moment in the kitchen while grabbing fresh hors d'oeuvres, Sam struck up a conversation with a woman chopping vegetables at lightning speed. "You've been here a while, haven't you?" she asked casually. The woman looked up, giving her a quick, curious glance. "Long enough," she replied with a chuckle. 15 years, name's Lorraine." Sam hesitated, then leaned in slightly. "Did the Whitmores always live here?" Lorraine paused, her hands stilled over the cutting board. "This estate's been in the family for generations. Before Mr. Victor took over, it belonged to his older brother, Thomas Whitmore, and his wife, Rachel. Good people." Sam's heart skipped. "What happened to them?" "They died," Lorraine said softly. "Car accident." About 19 years ago, I think right after the holidays, whole town mourned. Sam's blood ran cold 19 years ago. She would have been 6. The same age as the girl in the photo. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. Lorraine went on, her tone lower now. Rumor was, they had a daughter. No one knows for sure. Some said she died in the crash. Others said she went missing. The police never found anything. Sam's mind raced. She barely finished her shift, each moment dragging under the weight of a question too big to ignore. Could I be that daughter? Later that night, she sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the old photo in her drawer, the same one that had been in the mansion. Her adoptive parents had always said she was brought to them from a shelter just outside Memphis. No background, no known family, just a frightened, quiet little girl with no memory of where she came from. She never questioned it before. Now she couldn't stop. The next morning over breakfast, she looked across the table at her adoptive mother, Carol. "Mom, do you remember anything about where I came from before the shelter?" Carol looked startled. "That's an odd question, honey. Why do you ask?" I saw a picture last night, in a place I've never been, and it was me, as a child." Carol set her coffee mug down, her hands shaking. "We were told your parents died in an accident. That's all they said. You were found alone." Sam sat in stunned silence. An accident, a little girl, a missing past, too many coincidences. Her heart beat like a drum against her ribs. It wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was her story, and she was about to follow the trail, no matter where it led. Samantha couldn't sleep. The name Thomas Whitmore echoed in her mind. The photo, the story of the crash, the rumors about a missing daughter, and her adoptive mum confirming that she had been found with no past, no parents, no answers. It was all too much to ignore. She had to go back. 2 nights later, Sam took another catering shift at the Whitmore estate, this time not for the paycheck, but for the truth. The moment she stepped through the back entrance, her eyes swept the halls. But the photo was gone, vanished, as if it had never existed. Her stomach dropped. Someone had removed it. Someone knew she had seen it. She finished her shift like nothing had happened, but she watched. She listened, and in the quiet moments, she asked the right questions. In the staff hallway by the water cooler, she found Calvin, a soft-spoken security guard with salt and pepper hair and tired eyes. "You've been working here a long time, right?" she asked. 22 years, he nodded. "Back before Victor Whitmore owned the place?" Calvin's eyes narrowed. "Yeah, I was here when Thomas and Rachel were still alive." Sam's throat tightened. "Did they have a daughter?" Calvin hesitated, glancing around. Then he lowered his voice. "Rumors said they did, sweet kid. Disappeared the same night of the crash. Some say she died with them. Others say she didn't." Sam's pulse pounded. Why would no one say anything? Calvin's jaw clenched. "Because Victor took control fast. Before the bodies were cold, he had lawyers here, documents signed, the estate transferred. Anyone who asked questions didn't stay around long." Sam's breath caught. "You think he hid the girl?" "I think," Calvin said slowly. "Victor didn't just take the estate. He erased something. Maybe someone." Sam's world tilted. The Whitmore fortune was worth hundreds of millions. The estate, the businesses, the influence, it had all passed to Victor uncontested. But if Thomas and Rachel had a daughter, her, then she was the rightful heir, and Victor would have done anything to make sure she stayed missing. Back home, Sam dug through what little paperwork she had from her adoption. There was nothing. No original birth certificate, no trace of her real name, just a file stamped Jane Doe, approx, age 6, found near Shelby County Shelter. Her identity had been wiped clean. She stared at herself in the mirror. For years she believed she was just another orphan with no past. But now she knew better. Victor Whitmore hadn't just stolen an estate. He had stolen her life. Sam knew what she had to do. She had to find proof, something concrete that tied her to Thomas and Rachel, something Victor couldn't deny or bury. Because if he had gone this far to hide the truth, what else was he willing to do to keep it hidden? Samantha didn't eat. She didn't sleep. Her mind was locked on one thing: Proof. She knew who she was now. Deep down, she felt it in her bones. But feelings weren't enough. Victor Whitmore had erased her from the family history. She needed something he couldn't bury, something solid. And, according to Calvin, the longtime security guard, all the family's personal records, birth certificates, letters, estate documents, were kept in one place. Victor's private study. It was a forbidden room. Always locked. 3rd floor. No. Staff allowed. But Sam had already come too far to stop now. 2 nights later, her opportunity came. Word spread through the staff that Victor was flying to New York for a business trip. He wouldn't return until the following evening. The mansion would be quiet, empty of its master. Sam put on her catering uniform as usual, but this time she wasn't there to serve cocktails. She was there to break in. She waited until the guests were distracted in the ballroom. Then, with a deep breath, she slipped upstairs. Every creak of the staircase felt like a warning, every step a risk. The hallway on the 3rd floor was dark and cold, untouched by the warmth of the party below. At the end of it stood a tall wooden door, Victor's study. She turned the handle unlocked. She stepped inside. The room smelled of leather, cigar smoke, and power. A massive mahogany desk stood in the center. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls, but her eyes went straight to the corner, where a painting of a horse hung crookedly. She crossed the room and gently pushed the canvas aside. There it was, a digital safe. Her heart pounded. She had one shot, and then she remembered what Calvin told her. Victor never forgot the day his brother died. She typed in the date of the accident. 49-2006 beep. Click. The safe opened with a heavy groan. Inside were ledgers, hard drives, and documents. Sam's hands trembled as she grabbed everything she could, but one item stopped her cold. An old envelope yellowed with time, addressed in soft, cursive handwriting. To my daughter Samantha. Her breath hitched. She opened it slowly, carefully. Inside was a letter from her mother. My sweet Sam, if you're reading this, it means something terrible has happened. Your father and I feared this. We tried to protect you. But if we're gone, you must know the truth. Victor cannot be trusted. He wants the estate, the company, everything we built. He will stop at nothing. But you, my love, you are strong, and you are a Whitmore. Never forget who you are. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched the letter to her chest. It was real, all of it, her past, her identity, the betrayal, and suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hall. The door creaked. Victor stood in the doorway, eyes cold, voice like ice. Well, he said, I was wondering when you'd come looking. Samantha stood frozen, the letter still trembling in her hands, as Victor Whitmore stepped into the study, his shadow stretching across the floor like a storm cloud. I was wondering when you'd come looking, he said coldly. Sam's voice shook, but she held her ground. I know what you did. I know everything. You lied. You stole the estate. You hid me. Victor scoffed, stepping closer. And who's going to believe you, a girl from a foster shelter? You have no proof. I have this, she said, holding up the letter. I have documents, flash drives, financial records, everything you tried to hide. His jaw tightened. You were never supposed to come back. Well, I did, she snapped, backing toward the door. And I'm not leaving without the truth. But Victor's face darkened. Then you're not leaving at all. Suddenly, he lunged. Sam bolted, adrenaline kicking in as she tore through the mansion's corridors, clutching the bag filled with evidence. Her feet pounded the marble floors. Behind her, Victor shouted for security. She didn't stop. She raced down the back stairs, burst through the service entrance, and leapt into her car. Tires screeched as she peeled out of the driveway, heart hammering against her ribs. The next morning, she sat across from an investigative journalist named Mason Grant, someone who had spent years digging into the Whitmore family. This is what I have, she said, sliding the bag across the table. Letters, ledgers, a confession from my mother. It's time people knew the truth. Within 48 hours, the media exploded. Whitmore empire under fire. CEO accused of inheritance fraud. Cover-up. Victor's world unraveled. The press swarmed. Investigators launched a full inquiry. His legal team scrambled, but it was too late. The documents Sam had recovered were airtight. Within days, Victor was arrested and charged with conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction. But the biggest shock came a week later. A breaking news segment aired footage of a woman being escorted from a private psychiatric clinic just 30 miles outside of Memphis. Her eyes were distant, her hair graying, but Samantha knew that face. It was her mother. Rachel Whitmore. Victor had hidden her away, claimed she'd died, and kept her silent for nearly 2 decades. Sam dropped everything and drove straight to the facility. When she stepped into the room, her breath caught in her throat. "Mom," she whispered. The woman turned slowly. Her eyes widened. "Sammy?" she said, her voice cracking. "My baby?" Tears flowed as they embraced, holding on to each other like they never wanted to let go again. Doctors said Rachel had suffered trauma-induced memory loss, likely triggered by the crash and Victor's manipulation. But seeing Sam brought pieces back. Bit by bit, her mother began to remember. Later, Sam testified in court. Her story, backed by evidence, led to Victor's conviction. The Whitmore name, once tied to power and prestige, became a symbol of betrayal and justice. But Sam didn't take the fortune. She walked away from the estate and chose peace. With her mother by her side, she opened a community center for foster youth, giving kids the kind of love and safety she never had growing. But every morning as the sun rose over their quiet home in Tennessee, Sam would smile and whisper, "We're finally free." If this story moved you, if it made your heart race, your eyes tear up, or your mind start spinning with what-ifs, we want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in Samantha's shoes? Would you have kept digging, confronted Victor, or walked away, scared of what you might find? Drop a comment below and let us know. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it the photo, the secret safe, the emotional reunion with her mother, and most of all, tell us where you're watching from. Whether you're in a big city, a small town, or somewhere across the globe, it means so much to know these stories are reaching hearts everywhere. Your comments don't just support the channel, they help build a community of people who love powerful storytelling, just like you. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell because tomorrow's episode is coming. And trust me, it's one you don't want to miss. More secrets, more twists, and another journey that might just leave you speechless. Let's talk in the comments. I'll be reading every single one.